Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Heads Up Hockey. Yes, it is Friday today, and I can't believe it's already the start of the season once again. And yes, it's been an interesting night at the Rock. A lot of festivities going on, and especially around the league where everyone's excited to start off the new year. Plus, we can talk about goals forced and goals allowed. And definitely last night's game was very interesting. Basically, last night's team looked a little sloppy in the first period. I admit, Detroit looked like they were a little bit lost with the way they missed a few open net opportunities, but they just whiffed on a few too many chances. And that came to really bite them because in the second period, the Devils were down 1-0. And then all of a sudden, Jack on the loose, Hughes comes out behind the net, just flings it right off the helmet of Ville Husso, the big Finnish netminder, who just couldn't find the angle. He let open a little too much daylight, as Kevin Weeks said. And that was actually on my side of the ice where I was sitting back in Section 14. And I'm like, holy crow. He did this again. He's such a magician. That's what Jesper Bratt calls him. So the Devils got a second goal back from Jack Hughes once again. This time, he was just on the loose, weaving around, going short side for goal number 2. He was on hat-trick watch, although, spoiler alert, did not get the hat-trick. However, when Detroit did tie it up in the third period, it wasn't Jack who scored. It wasn't Siegenthaler who scored. It wasn't Toffoli. It was Dougie, right off of Broad Street Performance, Hamilton, who scored the goal. And, of course, with the Devils getting the empty net goal, it was Eric Hollaback, your boy, Holla, who scored goal number 4 for the Devils in that game. And they just looked very shaky a little bit at the end. And I'll be honest, I will say, yeah, opening night is a little sloppy at times. You just don't know. Sometimes, it's like Sheryl Crow once said in her song, the first cut is the deepest. Yeah, basically that summed up yesterday's game for me because I'm like, who really wants to start off on the wrong foot? The Devils improved their game throughout the game. Kevin Ball was playing physical. He was playing a shutdown game. And the whole entire time, the team just started to reconfigure themselves. They're like, we've been through this before. Let's just get back to what we normally do. And so they didn't really allow any poor chances. But there was just a few unlucky shots that didn't go their way. And they just need to improve on the penalty kill a little bit. By the way, in the middle part of the intermissions, I bumped up in with Arlette in the walkway, the hallway rather, and then I also met Krzysztof Oliwa, or as you call him, Krzysztof Oliwa. The Polish Hammer was out there in the second intermission before the third period, taking pictures and selfies with people, signing autographs. And it was great to see a former Stanley Cup champ, especially a Polish Hammer. He, too, was wonderful to talk to. And the game day experience was bar none. It was amazing. I felt at home once again. It's the Garden State of hockey for a reason. But in other news, you got to think about what the next 81 games mean with the Devils that are in the waiting in the wings you also have to think about how will your opponents in the Rangers, Hurricanes, Flyers, Islanders, Capitals, Blue Jackets, and Penguins. You got to think about what your opponent's going to do, especially the next 41 games. So basically, anytime between American Thanksgiving and Christmas is when all the contenders and pretenders start to shift. So I always say keep an eye on who we have and who we might get. So remember in the offseason I talked about the Devils looking at certain goaltenders. Yeah, I refer to those moves, but they might not have to make a whole lot of them. So if we look at the recent games played, yes, the Rangers scored 5-1 versus a team like Buffalo. Buffalo is just going to get their feet under them the next couple weeks, and I have a good feeling that they will start to turn it around. The Rangers, when they play the next 41, 82 games, they'll start to falter a little bit. However, Carolina, I just don't see the Hurricanes letting off the pedal because they have a lot of skill, depth, talent. And Carolina, they scored 5 goals, gave up 3, so they had a healthy margin. Philly did score 4 goals to 2, although I don't think that's going to be the trend going forward. So the Devils are improving off of last year, and they're trying to move the momentum. But Columbus scored 2 goals, gave up 4. Same thing with the Penguins. So I tend to look at it this way. The team that's really given up the most goals in the East are the Montreal Canadiens. They gave up 6 goals. They scored 5. So almost every time they score, they give up a goal. So their defense is pretty leaky, and I don't see them, being in contention. I see them backtracking. The Maple Leafs, they scored 6 goals. They gave up 5. That's a little erratic. Yes, it's opening night, but everyone's, like my buddy Trey Matthews says, shaking off the cobwebs. I like to say, cracking out the pork roll, just need to add the egg and cheese. The cook needs to know what he's doing in the kitchen. For those of you who don't know, it's a New Jersey thing. It's a New Jersey food that people sometimes don't know what it is until we talk about it. It's a regional thing. So it's a Jersey thing. Ottawa Senators. They scored 3 goals, gave up 5. So Ottawa is playing a little bit less high risk, high reward than, let's say, Montreal. But sometimes there's a few too many bounces that don't go your way. The Sabres just didn't have an opening night. They just didn't have it. You already know what I spoke about with them earlier. The Detroit Red Wings. Yes, we just covered them. They scored 3 goals, gave up 4. They're going to be a good team. Maybe not the greatest team, but they can definitely skate with the best teams. So that's going to be a benefit for them. But how will their defense hold? Because in the middle of the second period, they started to show glimpses of failures in defensive coverage. That is the one thing I have for Red Wings fans going forward. Now, we got the Tampa Bay Lightning. They scored 5 goals, gave up 3. They're doing just fine. They're just going to, roll with what they got, and they're just going to keep doing what they do. And they're just trying to stay a little bit young, but not too old. Trying to contend, but let's see what they got. I mean, it's an 82-game season. You just don't know at times. Hockey's very fun that way, when everything's unpredictable. And the Florida Panthers, they did not score any goals yet they gave up 2. So Florida has yet to score, but they've been scored on. Now we go to the reigning President's Trophy, Boston Bruins. Yep, that's right, the Boston Bruins, the new look Bruins. They got themselves 3 goals. However, they did give up 1. They're off on the right foot. Let's see if they can keep it up. However, the reigning Stanley Cup champion, Las Vegas Golden Knights, they scored 8 goals, 2 goals allowed in the last 2 games. So basically, let me do the law of average for you. They only gave up a goal per game. They scored 4 on average. So that's a good 4-to-1 ratio. And similarly, the Vancouver Canucks also scored only, what was it? The Canucks scored 8 goals, and they gave up 1. So really, they just came out guns a-blazing. I wish the Devils did that versus Detroit, but it's opening night. Everyone's shaking off the dust. Everyone has their own excuses this time of year, but Calgary, they scored 5 goals, gave up 3. And then you go to the Los Angeles Kings, they only scored 2. They gave up 5. So there's a lot to be done with the Los Angeles Kings. They're trying to make a better run. And the San Jose Sharks, they scored once, gave up 4 goals. It might be a long season for them. I'm just saying. I mean, they don't have Timo Meier. They do have to rely a little bit more on their AHL team with the Barracuda. Now, the Edmonton Oilers, letting up 8 goals and 1 goal scored. That ain't looking good. A little bit better for the Seattle Kraken, but when you play the Stanley Cup champs, you let up X amount of goals. It's not a good feeling. But like I said before, it's an 82-game season. Anything can happen, and anything can shift. Players getting called up, a waiver pickup, signings, trades. It's definitely going to be an interesting year for the Kraken because they're going to try and get back to the playoffs once again and go deeper. Anaheim has yet to play, but I do see the Anaheim Ducks being a team that can certainly get out there and try and prove why they will win the draft lottery. And we're back again, and we're looking at the Central Division right now. The Colorado Avalanche, they have definitely scored 5 goals, gave up 2. They're looking good. They got off on the right foot. Nashville Predators, in 2 games, they scored an average of 3 goals, total of 6. They gave up 5. So that's like 2.5 goals they gave up on average the past 5 games. So basically, they're on a 1-game win streak versus losing to Tampa Bay. The Chicago Blackhawks have scored 5 goals. They have 1 regulation win. They gave up 5 total. You see, I kind of have to preface this a little bit for people. Chicago is not the deepest team. They're an up-and-coming team. They're going to be fun and interesting in the next couple years, but they still have to add around Connor Bedard. And guys like Taylor Hall and Corey Perry, they might not always be there. They're likely going to be mentioned by guys like Frank Saravalli, guys like, oh yeah, that's right, the Elliot Friedman. Mr. Freege might be hearing trade rumors throughout the season, be like, yep, it's time to trade one of these lucky guys to a cup contender. So if Chicago's out of it, which I think they will be before Christmas, it could happen. It possibly could happen. Now, if Winnipeg keeps playing like they did, scoring 3 goals, giving up 5, could they be ripping it down in the middle of the season or right before February? We just don't know. Could Winnipeg turn it around? Maybe. But how many players want to go to play in Winnipeg? That is the problem. Now, if you're the Minnesota Wild, you've scored 2 goals, given up none. So basically you got really good goaltending, really good defense in the first game. You're off on the right foot, obviously. The Dallas Stars, similar story, 2 goals scored, given up 1. It's a good 2-to-1 ratio. The Blues, just the reverse. They gave up 2, scored 1. The Coyotes have yet to play. So basically, in the West, it's going to be a little bit more predictable than the East. The East is like very cutthroat, but in recent years, you've had a couple wins between the West and the East when it comes to the Stanley Cup. However, the West won it all last year with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And congratulations to the Stanley Cup champs. They deserved it. With that being said, like prospects-wise, yes, the Calder Trophy, is going to be an interesting year for people placing money down, and I don't bet. But I'm just saying, if you do, be smart, because if you look up Calder Trophy bets, you're definitely going to look at Luke Hughes, Beniers, Connor Bedard, Mason McTavish type guys. But Bedard and Luke Hughes are going to be the favorites going forward, and you just don't know who is going to win it. It is an 82-game season. Health is everything. Anyways, on this beautiful Friday, it's going to be an interesting weekend of hockey going forward now that the NHL season's begun. Major League Baseball is starting to wind down. And all eyes are set on Connor Bedard. Yeah, you're probably sick and tired of hearing about it. I'm kind of like over it by now, but like, hey, he's going to be the new face of the league. But guys like Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes, you're going to have guys like Adam Fantilli who are around in the league that are going to be faces of the NHL for a wicked long time. And maybe if you're a Rangers fan, you would say, Jersey Joe, what about Brendan Othmann? Well, let me dig into that. Where is Brendan Othmann, you say? And I will say this. The Canadian-Swiss citizen lies somewhere, let's see, with a Hartford Wolfpack. You see, it's better he doesn't get rushed, but it's important that he comes up when needed. Because if I were to tell Rangers fans seasons ago that it was better for Alexi Lafreniere Capo Caco to go to the AHL versus going right to the NHL and become more improved before they jump to the NHL right away, then they would have better careers. And I stand firmly with that. And on the topic of prospects, I'm covering the 2024 NHL draft prospects. I do have my own personal opinion when it comes to rankings. A bit of a hot take, but it's not really a hot take. It's more of a mild take. I have Cole Eiserman going number 1. It's really hard to find an Austin Matthews type player. He's just very good, shifty a little bit, elite finisher, and the release is just too freaking similar to Austin Matthews. Similar career path, numbers-wise, playing-wise, to Austin Matthews. I just can't really get over it. Definitely, I would say this. Artem Levshunov, the Belarusian right-handed defenseman, to me, reminds me of a Belarusian version of Dougie Hamilton with the Norris Trophy level of compete. You know, getting those wrist shots off, those slap shots, the passing, it's very prevalent. Then another guy I like on the defense is Anton Silayev. He reminds me a lot of Kevin Ball, but in the draft year, he's more economically mechanical with his playing style. I really like the way he is, and it's just a matter of preference. And I do like the way his career path is projecting. And he's someone that is playing in Russia, and Russia makes some really good defensemen, as well as they do forwards and goalies. And I just honestly believe that, you know, there's a lot of really good defensemen in this draft class, really high-end quality. So, like, let's say if you're a team like the Blue Jackets, the Flyers, the Ducks, teams like that who struggle throughout the year, you're looking at a good laundry list of players to choose from. It is not a problem whatsoever to associate yourselves with those names. And I will throw this in there. There are some other players that I do like that I will mention in another episode. I don't want to bore you guys and gals. And I am so glad that Heads Up Hockey has been here for over 4 to 5 years. Man, where has the time been? Holy crow. It's been special because when I first started this, I started this off with a buddy of mine named Jim Berger. I started calling him Jersey Jim, and he's called that on Instagram. So for those of you who don't know, I love talking about hockey. Some of you guys know me for writing for Pucks and Pitchforks. And for Pucks and Pitchforks, I also am a USHL NCAA scout for Draft Prospects Hockey. Also, I have a new article up for Pucks and Pitchforks today. It's called New Jersey Devils, Jersey Joes, Notes Ahead of a Great Season. So I want you good folks to take a good look at that, and certainly need you to go enjoy the rest of this day. If you're bored, you can go online to Fansided to Pucks and Pitchforks. Visit Heads Up Hockey Podcast. Give it a like on YouTube. Comment. Let me know what you think. Also, give me 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are. It is great to have everyone listening in, whether you're in Europe, Canada, United States, Mexico, wherever you are in the world. Please let me know where you're from. I would be honored to meet you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, great weekend, and happy Hockey Miss once again.